Okay, members, the sitting is resumed. It's time for questions to the Minister for Communities. We'll start with listed questions. Question 2 and 8 have been withdrawn. I call Melissa McHugh.
Cash to Hain, number 1, Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Housing Executive have indicated that an estimated 25 properties will be purchased in the current financial year, followed by 125 properties next year, 225 in 27-28 and 225 properties in 28-29.
McHugh.
Thank you, Minister, for your response this far. Minister, you know that a very large percentage of those who require temporary accommodation are single males who often find it difficult to find accommodation which is suited to their needs, even in the private market. And what way will you ensure that the purchase of these 600 homes is done in a strategic way to meet the needs of this type of demographic?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we're taking a holistic approach because first and foremost what I'm trying to deal with is the cost of temporary accommodation, and by allowing the reserves to be used in this way we will save significant sums of money that would otherwise be spent on hotels and B&B. So the nature of the temporary accommodation client groups such as single persons will be taken into consideration in that.
Frank Hickson.
Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his answer so far. Can he tell us more about how much savings the purchase of these homes will generate?
Mr Speaker, it's rare that ministers bring forward proposals that will actually save money in the long run, but that's exactly what we're doing through this scheme. It will save £75 million over the next 7 years, and it's important that we don't lose sight of that, because when we are in these times of financial constraint, we need to demonstrate ways in which we can protect taxpayers' money and look for further ways to do that as well, and that's exactly what I'm doing with the work in terms of fraud and error. Another way in which we can save tens of millions of pounds every year, and I look forward to receiving executive support for taking this work forward.
Armstrong.
Mr Speaker, and thank you, Minister. Minister, I appreciate that the 600 homes being used as temporary, or the new 600 homes being used for temporary accommodation will go some way to dealing with our housing crisis. But Minister, could I ask you if there's any plans for the Housing Executive to look at derelict properties across Northern Ireland to see if they could be added to that total?
Well, clearly we'll want to make sure that we buy properties that are fit for purpose. However, I share the member's concern about the extensive numbers of derelict properties that are in existence in Northern Ireland. I see it in my own constituency. I'm sure that she sees it in hers as well. And I hope that the dereliction dilapidation bill that her party colleague will be bringing forward will help in that some way. But it is very, very difficult to be going through the housing crisis as we are at this moment, to see so many homes that are there. Obviously some of those will require work, but we need to add up and weigh up the costs of that, because it's simply not right that we're spending so much money in hotels and bed and breakfast when other housing opportunities are there. And of course we do everything that we can to look at all options.
Andy Allen.
Minister for his answer so far. Can the Minister expand on the information that the Housing Executive will use to determine where these properties are located?
Minister.
They've said that the principal considerations in the geographical distribution of these units will include those geographical areas where exposure to high-cost temporary accommodation is most prevalent. Also the nature of the temporary accommodation client groups, such as single persons, couples or families, and the availability of suitable property in those areas that are available to purchase that align with that criteria, and then we'll also have value for money considerations that will be taken into account as well.
Minister, the need to purchase these homes is ultimately a failure in policy, and a particular failure to build more social homes. You've cut the social housing grant, the Housing Association grant. You have pledged to build 6,000 social homes, just under 6,000 social homes by the end of this mandate, but that target looks like it is not going to be met. Do you accept that it won't be met, and do you accept that the need to buy temporary accommodation is a consequence of the failure to build enough social homes?
Well, first of all, I think the member misunderstands exactly what I'm trying to do with the Housing Association grant. I am not cutting the funding for social housing. First and foremost, that needs to be made clear. What I'm doing is cutting the amount of money that is available per unit so that that slack can be taken up elsewhere. by the housing associations, by private finance that they are able to get, that unfortunately we are not able to get at this moment. So it actually makes sense to do that and to make sure that the money that we have go further, because I'm not happy with the status quo. I don't think the status quo is appropriate, and that's why I'm trying to do new and innovative things, and that's what I have done since I have come into office, because he's right. We haven't got the social homes that we need. We don't have homes across all tenures, and I'm trying to do something about that, which is why I'm trying to get executive agreement and to bring forward a proposal so that we can have easier access to public sector land. It's why for the first time I brought forward intermediate rent to provide some relief for those who need it as well, which is why I have done more than any other minister to put housing executive revitalisation on the agenda as well. These are all of the new actions that I am taking. Of course, I will continue to ask for more funding to make sure that we can build more social homes, but ultimately, right now, we are spending huge sums of money every single year in temporary accommodation. So I have taken this step to ensure that we use housing executive reserves, and that will save over £75 million over the next 7 years.
Mr. Speaker, and I welcome the Minister's proposals to generate savings to the current spend for emergency accommodation. But on that basis, I'm very mindful of the neighbours that will be located beside these houses. It comes up time and time again where there is tenants causing problems. Because this is emergency accommodation, if concerns are raised, does that mean they will be able to be moved on, and then there'll be new people, deserving people, come in to these emergency accommodation units?
Well, the first thing I would say to Mr Gasson is I'm actually a minister that's taking antisocial behaviour seriously. I understand that it is a curse for many, many people, good, decent people that just want to live their lives, that are being plagued by others who, quite frankly, make their lives a misery. And that's why I am bringing stronger powers in place so that we can deal with antisocial behaviour and that people are actually held to account. And that's what I want to make sure happens, and that's why we're taking the actions that we are taking.
Tree.
Sure.
Mr Speaker, my department does not hold data on developments which are impacted by wastewater infrastructure limitations. However, it is clear from discussions I've had with the sector that wastewater capacity constraint is having a significant impact on house building.
Mr McNulty.
Thank the Minister for his answer. I find it extraordinary that the Minister for Economy doesn't know what level of economic stoppage is happening. No drains, no cranes. Can I ask the Minister for Communities to what extent the construction of new housing development has stalled due to insufficient water and drainage infrastructure?
Minister.
First of all, just to clarify, I am the Minister for the Department for Communities, not the Minister for the Economy any longer. And I think he simply just asked the same question twice. I don't hold that data, but as I've said, there has been a significant impact on that. So we need to make sure that we have sufficient infrastructure in place. We need to be looking at the areas where sufficient infrastructure does exist as well. That means making sure we make best use of the public land that is available, and that is why I have a paper that I hope will get executive agreement so that we can build more homes where there is capacity, as well as making sure that we put in place the infrastructure where there is need.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister. Minister, are you having any conversations with your counterpart in the Infrastructure Department regarding, and also with the construction industry, to ensure that you can start on new builds within the social housing sector?
Yes, I have met and have recently written to the Infrastructure Minister to again press for the need to identify substantive actions that will begin to resolve this issue. We are already seeing better collaboration between departments as a result of the housing supply strategy and that common thread that runs through that and wanted to build more homes. But ultimately, we need to make sure that that continues, because it is having an impact and we need to do something about it.
Keith Buchanan.
For his answer so far. Minister, the Infrastructure Minister has blamed the wastewater capacity issue previously on Tory austerity. Now it's British Government austerity. Change the line there. Does the Minister agree with that assessment that it's their fault?
Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, my party have long made the case for fair funding models for Northern Ireland, but we do have ministers in post for a reason. And why we want to see more funding and believe that we are entitled to more funding, we have to take decisions ourselves. We have to decide what our priorities are. It's for each minister to decide how they prioritise their budget. It's for each minister to take their own decisions, even if they're unpopular or difficult. So I hope that housing is a priority for the Infrastructure Minister and for Sinn Féin. I hope they back that up with sufficient funding for both the Social Housing Development Programme and investment in wastewater infrastructure, because we need to get real. This is a serious issue and we need to make sure we're doing something about it. I'm playing my role in bringing forward proposals that's going to save money. That means that we can redirect funding that we would otherwise be spending on hotels and bed and breakfasts into helping people stay out of homelessness. It's up to other ministers as well to make sure they're allocating the funding to where it needs to go.
Dan Armstrong.
Minister, thank you for your responses so far. Minister, can you tell us what impact this is having on the process used by NIHE to determine where homes are to be built?
Yes, well, of course, it does have an impact. The Housing Executive obviously manage the day-to-day operation of the Social Housing Development Programme. They regularly engage with Northern Ireland Water. They have provided Northern Ireland Water with a list of social housing developments that potentially require a connection to the public wastewater system over the next few years. NI Water review each development site in terms of a potential connection, and both wastewater treatment and network capacity will have to be assessed, and then that is put into the risk assessment for the programme. That's why it's so important that we get this right.
Egan.
Number 4, please.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, issues faced by people in North Down in relation to poverty are similar to those throughout Northern Ireland. I'm working to address these through the development of the anti-poverty strategy and interventions, such as the extension of welfare mitigations, the adoption of the new housing supply strategy, the provision of inclusive pathways to work for everyone in Northern Ireland, work on fuel poverty, and the development of a new people and place strategic framework. Specifically in the Ards and North Down Council area, my Make the Call outreach team supported over 1,200 people to access just under £7 million in additional benefits last year. And between the 1st of February 24 and the 30th of June this year, the Housing Executive funded private sector grants, including Affordable Warmth, totalling over £3 million. And this supported 91 home improvement grants and helped 155 homes through the Affordable Warmth scheme. In this financial year, the Neighbourhood Renewal Programme has invested almost £500,000 in 13 projects, and I've also provided £500,000 of funding to the independent advice and debt sector and social supermarkets, all of which play a critical role in addressing poverty.
Ms Egan.
Minister, community organisations in North Down deal directly with individuals who are living in hardship and poverty, and they're feeling the loss of the hardship fund from your department. Would you consider reintroducing that fund or a similar fund to support organisations dealing with individuals living in poverty?
I'm aware of the impact that that has had, and she'll be aware of the genesis of that, and that the funding is no longer in place for us to continue that. But of course we will assess the implications of that, and as part of the wider work that we're doing on anti-poverty, take whatever steps we need to make sure that we make the best use of the resources that we do have for maximum impact.
Diane Forsyth.
Mr Speaker, the Minister will be aware that home heating costs are particularly challenging for those who are feeling the cost of living pressures. Could he please give us an update on the fuel poverty strategy?
Yes, I've said I will be presenting the fuel poverty strategy by the end of the year, and that's still my intention. We know that as we head into the winter, these issues become more pressing for people, and I'm well aware of those costs and those difficulties that many people are facing. So I will have that strategy before the executive by the end of the year, but let's not forget, a strategy does not heat people's homes in and of itself, and that's why I'll also be announcing interventions as part of that strategy that will help us as we seek to eradicate fuel poverty in Northern Ireland.
Moving on, Peter Martin.
Mr Speaker, Sport NI has advised me that it received 44 applications to date. 16 projects have been approved, 3 applications have been declined on grounds of project ineligibility, and 25 projects remain under review.
Mr Martin.
Thank the Minister for his answer, and can I firstly thank him for coming down to see Bangor Cricket Club juniors who are very interested in this funding. Can I ask him how Sport NI will ensure that the Olympic Legacy funding will provide, for example, an equitable split of funding? Is that either geographically, by region, or will it be by sport?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. This issue has been addressed by Sport NI on its webpage that advertises the fund. This isn't a competitive grant, and I want to acknowledge that not all clubs or sports may have the same capacity to access this fund. I knew it would be popular, and I'm pleased to see a big uptick. So, to ensure a fair distribution of funding by sport or geographical area, Sport NI may apply a cap within the programme, and applications impacted by a cap, should it be implemented, will be deferred to future investment rounds, subject to eligibility criteria and funding being made available.
Hollingford.
Sir, can I just confirm next year we have a lot of sporting clubs here that won't be ready for this round of funding. Will in the next financial year will this reopen, and if so, is the budget likely to increase?
Well, it's certainly my intention, Mr. Speaker, for this to be in place again in the next financial year. I think the number of applications that we've received so far are indicative of the need that exists within sport in Northern Ireland, so I want to see that continue. I hope we can have the same budget or an increased budget again, because this is what makes the difference. And I was delighted to have been invited on Saturday to Larne Leisure Centre to visit Larne Swimming Club, and they were very pleased with the Olympic Legacy Fund being open. They were delighted that they now have a way through, because a lot of clubs don't always have those funding opportunities, and so I want to thank them for making me so welcome, and for welcoming the fact that this is in place. And I want to help more clubs like that to ensure that they can have the equipment that they need. I think we have got the right approach with the crowdfunder element that's needed as well. I think it's bringing communities together. I think it's ensuring that local communities are being part of that, and that there's a buy-in there as well. And that is welcome, and I certainly hope it's something that can continue.
Hunter. Mark Durkin.
Question 6.
Summer of 2026.
Mr. Durkin.
Thank the Minister for his mercifully brief answer, and unusually. While all of us welcome any investment in the city, people in Derry will be glad to see the work finished and roads restored. Has the Department any further public realm plans for Derry City Centre, and would the Minister encourage collaboration with DFI to identify and address flaws in a previous scheme at Newmarket Street that has left a particularly perilous pavement that poses a real risk to pedestrians?
Understand that I can't comment on that particular issue because of ongoing legal issues. However, I think it is always a good thing if we can learn from previous schemes and any issues or difficulties that arise, and there will certainly be a willingness from my department to do that. He will be aware of the significant investment that will be coming through for the North West, in particular through the Regeneration Fund, and there will be other opportunities for that fund to be used for regeneration purposes.
Orlea Flynn.
Question number 7, please.
There's currently no set date for the publication of the Executive's anti-poverty strategy. However, work remains ongoing at pace within the Department to drive forward this vital work. The public consultation on the draft anti-poverty strategy ran from June to September this year, and input was received from a wide range of stakeholders. Officials are currently analysing all of those responses received throughout the process, and this analysis will be shared with all departments and with Executive colleagues, and the Executive will then give direction on any further development required on the strategy, including any changes deemed appropriate.
Ms Flynn.
Minister for his response. Minister, I'm conscious that obviously the strategy it hasn't been fully launched or implemented yet, but if there is anything even at this stage that he could indicate around any immediate actions that would flow from the strategy that might be able to help offset some of the real harsh impacts around the cost of living that people are feeling at the minute, if there's anything within the strategy that might be able to sort of, in terms of when it's launched, short-term, immediate actions that can be delivered on that issue? Thank you.
Well, in fact, we have taken some moves already as an executive, and we haven't waited until the full publication of the strategy to move forward. And we've been criticised for that, but we have included some of the work that we are already doing, and good progress has been made on the implementation of some of those issues. And we've had the discretionary support fund, which is run for some time, which is continuing within the Department for Communities, and other actions will continue. So I think it is important that we don't wait for the final publication of a strategy before we help and provide support in different ways. And she'll be aware that we are always willing to look at how we can help outside of the timelines for these strategies as well. Take, for example, the action that was brought forward after Labour took a callous decision to remove the winter fuel payment. I was able to bid for funding from the Department of Finance and get executive agreement so that we could put that measure in place. That's something that we will always look at depending on the circumstances that arise. But from the point of view of the executive, we want to make sure that the anti-poverty strategy is fit for purpose and makes a real difference, and has long-lasting impacts, and importantly tackles the root causes of poverty.
Mulholland. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your answers so far. It is a wee bit disappointing that we still don't have a timeline. I feel like we waited quite a long time until we got to the point of the initial draft being released, and now it feels like we're back in that holding pattern. Will your department be releasing the responses that you have received from those stakeholders? Can you give us an indication now about how many responses you received, whether they were supportive of the current draft document, and I suppose just a real timeline of when we'll actually hear from the sector in terms of their responses?
So, Mr. Speaker, we certainly haven't been in a holding pattern. We had a consultation period, and we put the consultation period in place for 14 weeks to give people the opportunity and the time to have their say. It's been less than 2 months since that closed, and during that period we have actually been looking at the responses, analysing those as well and taking those forward, and I'm very keen to be able to share those with the public, and it will inform executive conversations as well. So absolutely, we will be releasing that in the normal way. I'm looking forward to that happening so that people can understand what the public have had to say in relation to this, and then taking all of that information and presenting it to the executive so that they can make their final decision on how we take this forward and get it ready for publication.
Colin Cullinan.
In July 24, I established the Heritage, Culture and Creativity programme, and through that programme I will fill the void created by the absence of executive policy for the arts and for the historic environment, and look forward to bringing that forward soon.
I thank the Minister for his response. The question was in relation to the publication of a strategy for the arts. So in relation to that, could the Minister ensure that that publication happens? And I'm sure he will appreciate the economic and the health and well-being that the arts are to contribute to the economy, indeed all our lives.
Just repeat the answer. Through that programme, I will fill the void created by the absence of executive policy for the arts. That means I'll be bringing forward that policy.
Hello, Brett.
Minister, you've done an important job in ensuring that the Arts Council and the arts sector is now more reflective of working class communities across Northern Ireland. Can the Minister commit that he will continue to ensure that all communities benefit from arts funding and it is not just one section of society?
Minister. Absolutely, and the member will be aware that I have set this trajectory already, and I've sent a letter of expectation to the Arts Council outlining some of the issues that he has already raised. I've also had the privilege of welcoming Nora Dowds as the new chair of the Arts Council along with new board members. I'm absolutely delighted that she is in post. I've been reassured by their response, and I will continue to work with them to ensure that the arts is for everyone, regardless of class, religion, geography or background. The arts are not just for the few, the elite or the privileged.
Donny Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, you've just stated there that it is not reflective. I'm just wondering what support you're giving to ensure that it is reflective.
Well, I'm not sure if the member has been aware, but certainly from my constituents I've received many letters of correspondence and had meetings with people that feel that there hasn't been the support there for them. For many people outside of Belfast and Londonderry, they don't feel that there has been enough funding for the arts and for their organisations. Some very small groups, some groups doing great work in disadvantaged areas, some great groups in the arts and amateur dramatics in particular that feel that they haven't got the support and feel often that no one is interested in them. And that has been a common theme that has been recurring, that they feel that no one is interested in what they are trying to do. I'm surprised that the member hasn't received some of that feedback, but from my point of view, I want everyone to have confidence that they can apply and that the funding will be there on that fair and equitable basis. I know the big challenge for the Arts Council is that they don't have enough funding, but I want to make sure that we do get extra funding, but the funding that is there feels to people that it's there for everybody.
Colin Gildernew.
Question 10, Everett J.
Sure.
My programme of private rented sector reform is focused on addressing the key issues of affordability, security and quality in a way that balances the rights and responsibilities of landlords and tenants. Key actions I have already delivered are improving safety for tenants by setting minimum standards for fire and electrical safety, transferring the landlord registration scheme to councils to help increase landlords' knowledge of their duties and responsibilities, and restricting the frequency of rent increases to once in every 12 months with a 3-month written notice. The remaining actions that I will deliver in the current mandate are introducing much longer notice to quit periods, amending landlord registration regulations to make the scheme a more meaningful tool in raising property standards, and exploring minimum energy efficiency standards for the private rented sector.
Mr. Gildernew.
I'm going to thank the Minister for his answer. Minister, Westminster recently passed their Renters' Rights Act, which ushered in a significant number of reforms to private tenancies in England, such as a ban on no-fault evictions, abolishing fixed-term tenancy contracts and increasing rates for pet owners. Will you commit to bringing forward legislative reforms to strengthen renters' rights before the end of this mandate?
All of that will be kept under control, and if we kept under review, and if we need to bring in additional measures and if legislation is required, we will do that. I note what he says in regards to banning no-fault evictions, but of course that isn't watertight. There are always reasons why people can be evicted. In fact, in Scotland there are 18 reasons and exemptions for that. So in all of these things, it's about getting the right balance. But what I am progressing with right now are the measures that this Assembly had agreed to in the previous mandate. Always happy to keep open, to keep under review some of these other issues, but we also need to be aware of the unintended consequences that might come from that.
Right, Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, do you believe rent controls work?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I go by the evidence, and the evidence indicates that they don't. In fact, that's all of the evidence is demonstrating that. So for some, the solution to affordability is the introduction of regulation on rent control, such as freezes or reductions. But the independent research has highlighted the potential unintended consequences of such action, and this includes landlords exiting the private rental market, resulting in greater shortage of properties in an already stretched market. I had previously discussed and debated this with members in the House. I'm glad to see Mr. Carroll in his place. I had asked him just over a year ago that if he had evidence in relation to rent controls, that he should bring it to me, but unfortunately we have, it's coming. It only took him 11 months, but it's on its way, so I look forward to seeing that research, but I'll be guided by the research on this one, Mr. Speaker.
Murphy. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my officials are currently undertaking a scoping exercise on the feasibility and sustainability of a Northern Ireland industry levy, which is anticipated to be completed by the end of the financial year. The outworkings of that exercise will be used to help inform decisions on a way forward.
Ms. Murphy.
And Colin, I'd like to thank the Minister for his answer. Minister, just in terms of the work that you've taken to date, what discussions have you had with counterparts in other jurisdictions?
Well, clearly there's been engagement with relevant UK government departments in relation to this issue, and there's also been significant cooperation here in Northern Ireland, because in my correspondence to the UK government we have also written jointly, because this is an issue that just doesn't affect the Department for Communities alone, but I've worked closely with the Health Minister and the Education Minister on this, and we have made a joint representation around this wider issue, and I look forward to working with others, because I think it is important that we have this in place and that we use the funding that is there for the right purposes.
All for it.
Minister, can I ask the Minister to explain and describe how the engagement is with the Department of Health on this very serious issue?
Yes, absolutely. We have been engaging with them at official level, both in our correspondence with the UK government and to make sure that the other departments are aware of their responsibilities as well, because as he will be aware, the purpose of the levy is to help tackle gambling harm, for which the Department of Health actually has responsibility. So they have an important role to play in advising my officials on gambling harm, and they should also be advising on the type of projects and services that a levy could support.
Moving to topical questions, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sport can be a real roller coaster. There's the highs of victory, which supporters of both our international football teams on this island have enjoyed recently. There are the lows of defeat, and then there are draws. Sometimes a draw will feel like a win, sometimes a draw will feel like a defeat. Can the Minister tell us how he feels about the draw that Belfast will host for the European Championships 2028?
Well, first and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I'm disappointed that we're not going to be hosting any matches here in Belfast. I would have very much have appreciated the opportunity for that to have happened, but we know the reasons why that hasn't happened. So in the absence of that, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to look at the ways in which we might still be able to benefit from the Euros being hosted by the UK and Ireland, and that's why I'm glad that the first step is ensuring that the draw will be taking place here, and we'll have 54 nations and many journalists coming for that. But now, that's no substitution, obviously, for holding matches here, but I think that we should be in the mindset of doing everything that we can to promote Northern Ireland and ensure we can play whatever role we can. That's the first of what I hope will be more announcements. What's more important will be the legacy that actually comes from the tournament as a whole, and I'm delighted that the IFA have already signalled their intention to put a significant amount of money into that, and I look forward to executive colleagues also providing support so that we can build a sporting legacy from it.
While we host a draw for this prestigious competition, Dublin will host 6-7 matches and generate hundreds of millions of pounds. Does the Minister have no regrets that more wasn't done by the Executive to secure the investment needed for Casement Park that would have allowed Northern Ireland to play a proper role in hosting and benefiting from one of the biggest sporting tournaments in the world? And will steps be taken to ensure that we don't miss out on future similar opportunities?
My goodness, Mr. Speaker, I have to say the member is very brave in asking the question that he has just asked. He's wondering why we were not able to host any games here. Well, obviously we know that Windsor Park didn't have the capacity for it, and he has mentioned in the past Casement. Well, we all know that to build Casement in time for the Euros required cash, and lots of it. And my skills and abilities do not extend to magicking £300+ million out of nowhere. So yes, I am disappointed that we didn't get matches, but maybe the member for once would like to consider the role that he played in all of that as well. Because if you really want to, we can go back to the original planning application in 2014. And why did the original planning application fall at judicial review in 2014? It was because of the member, because a judge ruled that he acted unlawfully in granting planning permission. He didn't take into consideration all of the relevant factors. He says it was irretrievably flawed. There is more blame to go on Mark Durkan than anybody else in this House. It was Mark Durkan who unlawfully approved the original planning application. That is why we are in the situation that we are in today. I would rather all of these projects had been completed in 2011. We wouldn't be facing the cost that we are facing now. So maybe if the member wants to blame someone, he should look in the mirror.
Right, Carl.
Expected, or hope rather, in the coming days that the budget announced by Westminster will retract its cruel, Victorian, deeply damaging two-child benefit cap. Can you give an update on any discussions that junior officials have had with the British government on reversing this decision?
He shouldn't be surprised to hear that the UK government haven't provided us with information on their intentions. I'm not sure how much use it would be anyway. It would probably change within a few hours.
Thank you. Minister, if they do decide to scrap the policy, presumably there will be a financial benefit, extra money coming here to cover the cost, and if not, will you give a commitment that your department will cover the cost?
Well, of course, that's the difficulty, is that it's of huge cost to us to do this on our own. I hope that the government do the right thing. I hope that they reverse this policy. That has been the united position of the Assembly. But of course, we will look at all options as we finalise the anti-poverty strategy to ensure that we provide the help where it is needed most.
Diane Forsyth.
Mr. Speaker and Minister, it's great to see your work and engagement to realise the full potential of the US 260 celebrations here in Northern Ireland, and I've been a bit disappointed to hear some members voicing their opposition to your attempts to increase awareness, knowledge and understanding of Northern Ireland in the United States. Minister, why do you think this is?
Yes, well, I heard some of the comments from the Chair of the Communities Committee in the Public Accounts Committee last week, where he was very negative about what it is we're trying to do around our connections with the United States. I don't know whether that's because of his own distaste for Ulster Scots culture, or the fact that Northern Ireland is going to get special status in that celebration next year. But I think it is important because of the benefits that it can bring to Northern Ireland, the tourism, investment, greater understanding in the United States about who we are. But my goal is clear: to promote Northern Ireland, who we are, what we've done in the past, and what positively lies ahead for us in the future.
Ms. Forsyth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your answer. And you know that I'm very passionate about the Ulster Scots culture, and I look forward to welcoming you down to some more events in the Mourns. Minister, can you give an outline of some of the tangible outcomes that you foresee from the investment around the US 250 celebrations?
Yes, well, Mr. Speaker, obviously we're getting that standout on the international stage next year at the special event that the US are organising. We've also got the Memorandum of Understanding, which has a number of key benefits for Northern Ireland in that as well. We're also raising those cultural connections, which I would have thought the Chairman of the Communities Committee would be welcoming. We'll also be hosting our own event in the US next year, which will give us the opportunity to tell people about Northern Ireland, and through the US 250 Commission we're getting some significant players in the room with us, and that should be welcomed by all.
Declan Kearney.
Minister, it's not lost on the public that of all the towns in the north, the three to which you awarded £150,000 for Christmas lights were either in your own constituency or within the wider Mid and East Antrim Council area. So why did you deem Larne, Ballymena and Carrick as the only towns which were deserving of that significant financial uplift?
Mr. Speaker, it's up to individual councils to identify their priorities for regeneration funding. My department applies a consistent approach based on those applications and priorities, and it's great to see towns taking the initiative to apply for funding and deliver projects that enhance their town centres. Funding for festive investments has also been provided to 5 other council areas in current and recent years: Ards and North Down, Lisburn and Castlereagh, Armagh, Brambridge and Craigavon, and Newry, Mourne and Down.
Mr. Kearney.
I'm sure that you would agree with me that many councils are now struggling with the effect that the slashing of the rates support grant has had on their financial management arrangements. In my own council, they have been faced with the invidious challenge, in Antrim and Newtownabbey Council within my own constituency, it's been faced with the invidious challenge this year of trying to work out which towns will get Christmas lights and which not. So are you saying, Minister, that this was the only application that you received for financial support to invest in Christmas lights this year?
I'll confirm that with him, but the information that I have is that this is open to everyone on the same basis to apply to. This is up to councils to decide how they allocate their regeneration fund. Look, let's cut to the chase here. You think something untoward has gone on and that I am prioritising my own constituency. I will always want to stand up for my own constituents, but I can assure you this is here on the same basis for everybody, and I think he's barking up the wrong tree.
Ross Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I ask the Minister for an update on his Community Infrastructure Fund and any scope for that fund to receive additional funding from any other department?
Yes, I'm pleased to confirm that the fund has received over 800 applications, and I'm also very encouraged by the fact that we have had interest from a wide range of sectors spread well across every council area in Northern Ireland, and this is a clear indication that we have a great need for this fund, and my officials are now working to ensure this becomes a rolling programme of support which is much needed by the voluntary and community sector.
Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that answer. Could you tell me, Minister, will you evaluate the scheme and the positive impact on communities and perhaps roll this scheme out year on year?
Yes, there certainly will be an evaluation taken, and I hope that it can be funded again next year. And apologies, I didn't answer the second part of his first question, which was in relation to funding from other departments. And I have had correspondence and discussions with the DAERA Minister, and I'll be writing to him formally to request his support for this fund, because the majority of applications for the fund come from rural communities, and as the member will know, the primary policy remit for this area falls to DAERA. So I hope we can actually work together on this, because there's a huge demand and it will have a hugely positive impact.
Shell Guy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I ask the Minister what actions his department is taking to support those organisations who will be putting 650 staff on redundancy notice at the end of the calendar year due to uncertainty around the Local Growth Fund?
Yeah, this is one that we'll all have been contacted about, and one which I am concerned about, because there are so many really good organisations doing brilliant work that have uncertainty. They've had uncertainty for some time, and there doesn't seem to be any clarification coming their way. So as an executive, and in particular the Finance Minister, who will lead on this, have made and will continue to make those representations, because what is certain is that they do brilliant work and they deserve to have that long-term certainty, which they just don't have right now.
Mrs. Guy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for the answer. But can I ask you exactly some detail around what you have done to put pressure on Westminster to actually provide support that we need for these organisations?
Well, obviously, all work with the Treasury goes through the Department of Finance. It's how the Executive operates, but I can assure her there has been very strong support right across the Executive, including from myself, for the issues that the Finance Minister is raising. I know that doesn't bring much comfort to those organisations that are so badly affected, but what is clear is that we need answers on that, and we need answers very, very soon, and I'll play whatever role I can in that.
Honeyford.
Mr. Speaker, the funding allocations for Casement Park and the Northern Ireland Football Fund were set in 2011. Given inflation and the rise in construction costs, the real value of that money has been significantly eroded. Does the Minister agree that the actual value of what was committed in 2011 should be matched today, that we see both delivered?
Well, it absolutely is the case that the funding is not worth as much as it did back in 2011. That was the commitment that was made at that time, and I'm disappointed that progress hasn't been made in the case of the football fund, because of ministers not taking that forward when they should have, and in the case of Casement, Mr Durkin acting unlawfully in terms of Casement Park and holding it up for that reason. But obviously any further allocations would be subject to executive agreement. We have to balance those up against the other pressures that are there.
The question is, do you agree that the value should be increased with inflation today? As your position in the Minister on that executive, will you be arguing that those two values are uplifted to the same value or as what it was in 2011?
Sir.
Look, of course, I want to see more money for sport and for sporting infrastructure, but I have to be aware that there are a number of other pressures within my own department and across the executive as well. So do I want to see more money for sport in Northern Ireland? Absolutely. Should it be on a fair and equitable basis? Absolutely. But there's a huge financial requirement on us right now. Those increases in and of themselves will not meet some of that need, but those things have to be weighed up altogether.